You are not here by accident. This message has reached you because you were meant to hear it. There is a weight in your spirit, a stirring deep within that you cannot ignore. You have always known you are different, set apart, called for something greater. The battles you have faced, the resistance you have endured, were never just random hardships. They were proof of your purpose. You were marked from the beginning. You have felt it, the unseen forces at work, the shifting in the spiritual realm, the undeniable sense that something is about to break. This is not paranoia. This is revelation. And those who have risen against you, those who have conspired in secret, thinking their actions will go unnoticed, are about to learn the hard way that God does not stay silent forever. This is your confirmation. The warnings have been sent. The time for mercy is nearing its end. What was foretold is now upon us. Your enemies have walked past every exit, ignored every sign, and now they are stepping into the storm of their own making. But you stand firm. You are the beacon, the warrior, the chosen. Brace yourself. The flood is coming. And when it does, you will not be swept away. You will rise. Revelation does not come to inflate one's sense of power or to fuel the fires of vengeance. It is entrusted to those who have been refined through adversity, those who have learned to stand firm when the ground beneath them shakes. It is only when the soul is fortified by patience and wisdom that the unseen is unveiled. The knowledge of what awaits those who have chosen destruction is not a weapon in your hands, but a weight upon your spirit, a confirmation that you have endured without being consumed by bitterness. What you witness is not a spectacle for triumph, but a solemn unveiling of consequence. The unfolding of fate is not for the sake of retribution, but a testimony to the unshakable balance that governs all things. The collapse is never sudden. It begins as a quiet unraveling. At first, it is dismissed as coincidence, an unfortunate turn, a fleeting misstep. But you, with sharpened vision, perceive the undercurrents shifting. What once seemed untouchable begins to erode, not by external force, but from within. The illusions of permanence fade, and what was once held tightly slips through grasping fingers. It is not by your hand, nor by your will, but by the order that was always in motion. Warnings were given, roads to redemption laid bare, yet arrogance clung to the belief that the tide would never turn. Now, inevitability unfolds, indifferent to regret or resistance. Yet, in the face of all this, there is no satisfaction in watching what was foretold come to pass. There is no celebration in the weight of truth. Your purpose is not to stand among the ruins and recount how the downfall came to be, but to remain unmoved in the certainty that justice does not answer to human desire. It answers to a force greater than any fleeting power. You were never meant to be the executioner, only the witness. And in witnessing, you are reminded that the righteous walk not with a hunger for destruction, but with an unshaken trust in the order that governs all things. Warnings have been sent, clear and undeniable, yet they press forward, convinced that their path will remain untouched. Every defiance, every step taken against the call to turn away, solidifies the storm that looms over them. The weight of consequence is not a distant threat. It is already in motion, gaining force with each refusal. This is not a matter of if, but when. The inevitable cannot be bargained with, and once the tide rises, there will be no escape. Those who have walked in truth recognize this unfolding long before it reaches its peak. The signs have been laid bare, revealing the fractures in the foundation of those who ignore what has been set in place. What they believe to be unshakable will soon show its fragility, not just in one aspect, but in every corner of their existence. They march forward, believing themselves steady, unaware that the ground beneath them is already giving way. Yet this knowledge is not granted to fuel pride or to be wielded as proof of superiority. If the heart is consumed by the satisfaction of another's fall, the very clarity that was given will slip away. The purpose is not to feed arrogance, but to instill understanding. The truth is not shown as a spectacle for delight, but as an affirmation of a deeper order. To take pleasure in destruction is to misunderstand the weight of justice. What is unfolding is not a reward for the righteous, nor a personal victory over opposition. It is the natural course of defiance meeting its reckoning. Those who crave vengeance distort the very essence of revelation, turning insight into blindness. Decay does not strike in a single blow. It spreads in silence, seeping into every space, unraveling what once seemed whole. It is not confined to the body, nor to a singular misfortune. It is an erosion that touches everything. What was built with defiance will crumble under its own weight. Their influence, their certainty, the control they once wielded, it will not vanish in an instant, but piece by piece, until even they cannot deny what has taken hold. Yet this unraveling is not inflicted by external hands. It is not an attack, but an inevitability, set into motion by the very choices they refuse to reconsider. Every act of resistance against truth has placed another stone upon the structure of their own undoing. The descent is not an act of punishment, but the unavoidable result of a path that leads nowhere else. Through all this, the role of the witness remains unchanged. To see is not to interfere, and to understand is not to celebrate. This is not an event to be met with triumph, but with solemn certainty. The weight of consequence belongs only to those who set it in motion, and those who stand apart must remain unmoved by the temptation of vindication. Justice does not require an audience, it simply is. Some have been given a chance to step away, to abandon their reckless pursuit, yet they press forward, refusing to acknowledge the warnings that echo around them. Every defiance weaves their downfall tighter, binding them to an outcome they refuse to see. There are those who sense the shifting winds, who feel the weight of something approaching, and they hesitate, questioning their steps. But others remain blind, consumed by their illusion of control, convinced that the power they clutch is unshakable. They walk with the certainty of those who believe themselves beyond reach, unaware that the very ground beneath them has already begun to give way. They move as if the path they tread will hold forever, ignoring the signs of its slow disintegration. The call to turn back has been given, but pride has deafened them to reason, and each passing moment only hastens the collapse they deny. The unraveling will not be confined to the unseen. It will take root in their very being, manifesting in ways they cannot ignore. It will cling to them, relentless and consuming, like an affliction creeping through every part of their existence. The strength they relied upon will fail them. The very body they trusted will betray them. This is not an arbitrary punishment, nor an act of vengeance. It is the natural outcome of what they have sown. To reject what has been set in place is to invite ruin, and that ruin does not discriminate between soul, mind, or flesh. The signs of their decay will be evident, a reflection of the corrosion that has already taken hold within. Yet those who stand apart will not be swept into the chaos. Their purpose is not to celebrate destruction, nor to delight in what is unfolding, but to bear witness, to understand the weight of consequence. This is the moment where choices are laid bare. There is still a path that leads away from the storm, But for many, it has already grown too distant to reach. The walls of their own making are closing in, built by their own hands, and soon there will be no escape. Yet no one is struck down without warning. The moment of reckoning does not come without cause. It is the culmination of every ignored sign, every dismissed plea for wisdom. Those who believe they can outrun consequence do not realize that it moves with them, woven into every step they take. There is no force needed to bring about their fall, only the weight of their own choices catching up with them at last. And those who have been given sight will not interfere. They are not here to pass judgment, nor to revel in destruction. They know that justice moves in its own time, and when it arrives, it will not ask for permission. It will simply be. But if they do not listen, they perish by the sword and die without knowledge. Job 36:12. There is a moment when the farmer watches the sky, knowing the storm has been building for days. The air is thick with warning, the wind restless with unseen hands shifting the earth beneath his feet. He has sown his fields, tended his crops, and now he waits. For when the floodgates of heaven open, there will be two kinds of people: those who built their foundation upon the rock, and those who placed their trust in sand, laughing at the sky, even as the first drops began to fall. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution, it's a declaration, a step toward who you were meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. This right here is where we stand. The warnings have been sent. The truth has been placed before them, not as a whisper, but as a declaration. This is not a secret. This is not a hidden thing. The call to turn back has already been spoken. And now, the final hour approaches. The road they walk is not a path toward victory, but toward destruction. And yet they march on, heads high, hands clenched, convinced they can outmaneuver the one who sees all. They plot in secret, believing themselves untouchable, mistaking patience for absence, silence for weakness. But let me tell you something. God does not lose sight of what belongs to Him. And you have been entrusted with this knowledge. This is not a message of fear, nor is it a call to arms. It is a confirmation that what has been stirring within you is real. You have felt it, haven't you? That weight in your chest, that certainty deep in your bones that something is shifting, something is breaking, something is about to be revealed. That is no coincidence. That is no empty thought. That is revelation. You were chosen to see what others refuse to acknowledge. Let them mock, let them dismiss, let them pretend the ground beneath them is not splitting apart, that the walls around them are not beginning to tremble. What they do not realize is that their own hands have set the foundation of their downfall. Every deception they spun, every word laced with poison, every plan crafted in the shadows, all of it has led them here, to this moment, to the brink of collapse. This is the final threshold. It is both judgment and mercy, a line drawn in the sand, an invitation to step back before it is too late. The door is still open, but not for long. If they continue forward, if they push past every sign, every plea, every last opportunity to turn around, then what comes next will not be a surprise. Oh, it will be swift. It will be decisive, and there will be no escaping it. They thought they could silence the call of the divine. They thought they could rise up against the chosen and walk away untouched. But let me remind you, when you fight against the one whom God has set apart, you are not just battling flesh and blood. You are contending with something far greater, something eternal, something that cannot be defeated. And justice? Justice is neither late nor misplaced. It is not an afterthought, nor is it a delayed reaction. It moves with intention. It arrives at the appointed hour, and when it falls, it does not miss. So stand firm. You are not here to waver, not here to question whether the promises made to you were real. They were. They are. You were chosen for such a time as this. And when the rain begins to fall, when the flood comes to sweep away all that was built upon arrogance and deception, you will not be the one drowning. You will be the one standing. Those who have been called to witness have seen this play out before. The hand that moves unseen does not hesitate when the time comes for action. There was a moment, undeniable in its clarity, when one who worked against you was met with something they could not explain away. They had spent their days weaving falsehoods, their confidence unshaken, their hands steady in deception, until the night arrived where all they had built within their mind crumbled before them. Sleep did not bring them peace, but instead a vision so vivid, so unrelenting, that it shattered their illusion of control. The weight of their own destruction was no longer distant. It was placed before them with such force that they awoke, not with defiance, but with fear. The next day, their demeanor was unrecognizable. The arrogance they once carried had drained from their voice, their words now laced with uncertainty. What they had dismissed as superstition had now revealed itself as undeniable truth, and for the first time, they saw what had always been inevitable. Their sudden remorse was not merely guilt, it was the realization that they had dared to stand against something far greater than themselves, and as it was then, so too will it be again. The Lord is known by his acts of justice. The wicked are ensnared by the work of their hands. Psalm 9:16. There's an old saying that a man who builds his house on sinking ground may not notice the shift beneath him until the walls begin to crack, the foundation groans, and suddenly what once seemed unshakable starts to crumble. That is the fate of those who rise against you. They walk forward with confidence, believing they are secure, convinced they can act in secrecy, untouched by the forces that shaped this world. But let me tell you something. The foundation beneath them is already failing. The ground they stand on is not solid. It is shifting, trembling under the weight of their own actions. At first, the signs come as whispers, a deal falling through, a relationship unraveling, a moment of unease they can't quite place. They brush it off. They tell themselves it's nothing, just a passing moment of misfortune. But then, the disruptions begin to multiply. Their victories turn hollow. Their steps feel heavier, and though they cannot see the reason, deep in their spirit, they know. They know something is coming. It presses against them like a weight they can't shake, a pressure they can't explain. And then suddenly, it happens. In the quiet of the night, in the middle of their restless thoughts, they come face to face with the truth. Maybe it's a vision that shakes them awake, a dream so vivid it leaves them gasping for air. Maybe it's an overwhelming fear that grips them when they least expect it, a sudden awareness that they have stepped into something far bigger than themselves. Some will turn back, terrified of what they've seen, but others will refuse to yield. Hardened by arrogance, blinded by their own pride, they will press forward straight into the storm. And that storm? Oh, It is coming. You see, those who walk with divine favor don't just face battles in the natural world. They are caught in something far greater. This is not just a struggle of flesh and blood. This is a spiritual war. And when God moves, when He chooses to intervene, it is not subtle. It is not quiet. It is not something that can be ignored. This is a principle, a law, a pattern as old as time itself. What has been witnessed before will be witnessed again. Those who believe they can rise unchecked, who think they can mock what is sacred, will find themselves entangled in the very traps they set for others. They will feel it in their bones, in their thoughts, in the very fabric of their lives unraveling around them. Their confidence will falter. Their plans will slip through their fingers like sand. And you will see it unfold. This is not the first time. This is not a new thing. It is written into the order of the universe itself. The wicked are always caught by their own works. Their downfall is not random. It is the direct result of their own choices, their own defiance, their refusal to heed the warnings that were placed before them again and again. And when it happens, let me be clear, it will not be quiet. There will be no question about what is taking place. The same ones who laughed, who mocked, who thought themselves untouchable, will suddenly find themselves grasping at the air, searching for something solid to hold on to, only to realize that there is nothing left. They have built their empire on sinking sand, and now the tide is coming in. So stand firm. Do not waver. Do not doubt. You are not the one who should fear. What is coming is not for you. It is for those who set themselves against you. And once it begins, there will be no turning it back. The storm is not coming. It is already here. Justice does not waver, nor does it hesitate. It moves forward, and those who ignore its call will be caught within its path. A ruler once stood at the height of power, chosen, elevated beyond others. His reign was established, his influence unquestioned. Yet something within him twisted, leading him toward destruction. Envy took root, growing into an obsession, driving him to see another as a threat, rather than as part of the plans set before him. He was warned, given chance after chance to turn back, but his own desires overpowered reason. The crown he wore, meant as a symbol of favor, became instead a reminder of his failure to heed what was spoken. Power alone does not protect against downfall, and favor, once rejected, does not remain. If one raised to a position of prominence could be undone by their refusal to change, what does that say for those who follow the same path today? The weight of consequence is never an empty threat, nor is mercy without limit. Obsession distorts perception, twisting reality until only destruction remains. When bitterness is allowed to take hold, it poisons everything it touches. The past has already proven this. Those who fixate on bringing others down often find themselves trapped in the very collapse they sought to create. In the end, it was not an external force that brought him low, not the one he pursued with relentless fixation, but the weight of his own choices. His story did not close with triumph, but with loss, an end shaped not by the one he sought to destroy, but by the consequences he refused to acknowledge. Those who follow this same road today walk toward an outcome already determined. The moment for change has been given, yet they press forward, convinced that warning does not apply to them. But justice does not ask permission to arrive, and when it does, it will leave no room for denial. A throne is not required to be set apart. The hand that shields you is not moved by human status, nor is it swayed by the ambitions of those who seek to bring you down. The opposition you face is not just an attack on you, It is a challenge against the very purpose you have been called to fulfill. Protection is assured, just as it always has been, for those who walk in alignment with divine will. Those who fixate on dismantling what they cannot control will meet the same end as countless others before them. Power that is wielded in defiance of divine order does not endure. It crumbles under the weight of its own corruption. What they build in arrogance will not last. The higher they climb in self-importance, the greater their descent will be. Their downfall is not a possibility, it is an inevitability. You have witnessed this before, and you will witness it again. Those who allow bitterness to take root, who let resentment shape their vision, will find themselves consumed by the very destruction they intended for another. Their failure is not merely personal, it is the direct result of setting themselves against a force beyond their comprehension. Mercy is extended, but it is never a sign of weakness. There is no conflict between compassion and judgment. The same force that offers redemption also enacts justice. Warnings have been given, yet they persist, believing themselves beyond consequence. The patience of the divine is vast, but it is not limitless. There is no indifference here, no turning away, no silence in the face of oppression. The cries of the righteous do not go unheard, nor does suffering continue unnoticed. A reckoning awaits those who refuse to change course, not as a sudden strike, but as a force that has long been set in motion. Those who challenge this order do not merely contend with individuals. They place themselves in direct defiance of something far greater. There is a moment where the opportunity to turn back expires, where warnings cease and only judgment remains. This is not an act of cruelty, but the fulfillment of a principle woven into existence itself. Those who have mistaken patience for inaction, who have assumed that mercy is a shield against consequence, will find themselves overtaken by the very storm they ignored. There is no escaping what has already begun. They have dismissed the whispers of caution, ignored the shifts in the air, believing that their path is secure. But beneath them, the very foundation they trust is beginning to erode, silent yet certain. They walk forward, unaware that each step takes them closer to an edge they will not see until it is too late. The patience they mistake for passivity is instead the final pause before a reckoning that cannot be undone. When the response comes, it will not be delayed, nor will it waver. The opportunity for grace was extended, yet they turned away, inviting the weight of consequence upon themselves. This is not merely about opposition against one person. It is a challenge against a force far beyond their comprehension. To resist what has been set in place is to invite ruin, and no one who defies the established order walks away untouched. The passing of time does not weaken justice. It merely ensures that when the moment arrives, it will be absolute. And when it does, there will be no escape. This is not a moment for pride, nor is it a spectacle for celebration. It is the fulfillment of what was long foretold. They will watch as all they built is dismantled, as their greatest securities are torn from their grasp, left only with the weight of what they chose to ignore. Retribution is never random. It is the culmination of warnings disregarded, of opportunities wasted. The inevitable does not arrive in sudden chaos. It follows a path set by every decision they have made. And those who have been given sight will recognize the signs long before the final strike lands. What is unfolding was always meant to be. The voices of the past, the signs placed before them, all pointed toward this conclusion. Yet arrogance blinded them, convincing them they could walk untouched. The forces they mocked will now move against them, not because of any personal will, but because the order they ridiculed will not allow itself to be defied without consequence. Those who have been protected have nothing to fear. Their place remains secure, untouched by the storm that will soon consume those who thought themselves untouchable. This is not a matter of chance. It is an unshakable truth. Defiance does not stand against what has been spoken into existence. The moment has arrived to witness, to stand firm, as events unfold just as they always do. This is not a private reckoning. It is a revelation meant to be seen. The weight of these events is not meant to be carried in silence. What has been witnessed must be told, for it serves as a testament to the unbreakable nature of what has been set into motion. This is not merely history repeating itself. It is a truth woven into existence, undeniable and unstoppable. The proof will not remain hidden. It will be made clear to all. The path of resistance against divine order has always led to the same end, and now it is your turn to see it fulfilled once more.